The Clippers this season are going to be without Kawhi Leonard for a majority of the year, if not the full season, and I really feel like very few people are actually talking about it. To some extent, I get it because the talk was always around him and PG potentially leaving, and that's not a thing anymore because the Clippers gave them long contracts, and that was their sense of urgency, but still a contender losing its best player for a majority of a season, if not all of it, is usually something people talk about at length and hasn't really happened here. So in today's video, I suppose I'm going to pick up the slack and carry the NBA YouTube community as I always do. So let's get into it. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall into the 50%, then please subscribe. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference. Also, if you've been keeping up with my Mavs, My NBA series, episode 8 is out right now. If you have not watched that series yet, it is a realistic rebuild series where I do stuff that makes it enjoyable outside of it being 2K, because even if you don't enjoy 2K content, I think you can enjoy that series, so go check that out. But anyways, that is it. Let's move on with the video. All right, so first things first, and this is really the biggest problem, a loss of Kawhi Leonard means a lack of scoring, and that's a void that is going to have to be filled by this team by other players on the team. Luckily, this roster is really talented, so I do think they have enough players to fill that void to a decent volume. Now, you're never going to fully replace a superstar level offensive production, especially in the late moments of games, but you can get like 80% of it covered, 70, something like that, if you have as talented of a team as the Clippers do. So we expect Paul George to step up scoring wise. A lot of people have been claiming George is going to be a top MVP candidate for this reason. I personally don't think the Clippers will win enough for him to really get in that conversation, but like 27 to 29 points per game, yeah, I fully think he can get there. I do think it's interesting with PG because this will be the first time that he is the lone star on his team since the time when he was on the Pacers, so it's going to be very interesting to see him as the lone dog again. Will playoff Reggie Jackson prove to be a thing with the full season? I doubt that. Now, for what it's worth, Reggie was already pretty good in the regular season last year. He was relatively efficient. He shot 40% from 3, but for him to jump from the 10 points per game in the regular season to the 18 points per game he averaged in the playoffs while increasing his efficiency and shooting crazy from 3, I just don't see that as within the realm of likelihood, not within the realm of possibility. That's not a thing people say, but I didn't want to say without the realm of possibility because it is within the realm of possibility. So I don't know. Reggie is going to be good. I think he could probably jump to like 15 points per game, but I feel like getting a really efficient 18 is maybe a bit of a stretch for a full regular season, especially being that Reggie is 30 years old, and typically you don't see players just taking leaps like that at that age. Then there's Marcus Morris, who is also somebody that can force offense, and sometimes he does it in a way that's annoying, especially when you have everybody healthy, but being that Kawhi Leonard is out, him forcing offense might actually be a little bit more appropriate than it has been. So he can contribute there. Maybe you can look for some offense with Luke Kennard off of the bench because he can shoot and is a little bit of a playmaker, but his defense is bad, so you have to take that trade off. Is there any hope that Eric Bledsoe can be anything offensively off of the bench? Maybe in the regular season a little bit, but definitely not in the playoffs. Last but not least, I think there is reason to have hope that Terrence Mann is going to be taking a leap this year. In fact, Terrence is kind of the wild card that will determine a lot of this season. Mann has been a really efficient outside shooter and finisher thus far in his career, but it has been low volume. But if they gave him the starting 2-guard spot, I genuinely think that he would prove that that was an accurate depiction of his game, and he would shine. Terrence, I honestly think, could be like a 15 point per game guy while being a pretty good defender and a decent rebounder for his size. So I would put him in that starting 2-guard spot. I genuinely think he is what they need and the guy that's going to elevate this team further than what some might expect them to. So a starting lineup of Reggie, Terrence, PG, Marcus Morris, and Sergey Baka or Ivica Zubac is a pretty solid starting lineup, I'd say. Now, one thing that worries me is playmaking. While I understand that's a thing that has always been a worry with the Clippers, the problem stands out even more significantly when the best shot creator on the team is no longer playing. The attention the defense gives Kawhi gives a lot of players open looks, whether it's him finding them himself or someone else, but he creates openings in the defense. And even outside of that, I made a video back in 2019 about how the Clippers and their offense had an over-reliance on difficult shot making, and that might end up being the bane of their existence if they continue to exist in the fashion that they did. And I was completely right, and they ended up changing their offense a bit as a result after firing Doc Rivers. Tyronn Lue did a good job there, but he didn't completely erase that aspect of their offense, and I'd say they're still one of the teams in the league that most relied upon difficult shot making last season, just because, hey, we have Paul George and we have Kawhi Leonard, and then we also have like Reggie and Marcus who can sometimes do it. While that problem did get semi-solved, it's not gone. When you're replacing Kawhi Leonard as the guy taking that shot with instead Reggie or Marcus Morris, or God forbid it goes down to like Luke Kennard or Terrence Mann, well, the results of that are going to be different, and I think those possessions are going to happen frequently enough that they're definitely going to add up towards harming their offense. The Clippers offense often looks stagnant, and instead of Kawhi bailing them out, they're gonna have to go to somebody else, and that's probably not really going to work. One thing that I think could help their offense is Sergey Baka coming back and starting at the center position over Ivica Zubac. One thing that I think would help the Clippers offense quite a bit is Sergey Baka coming back and starting at the 5 spot over Ivica Zubac. Zubac might actually be the better player at this point, however, there is a key difference between the two, which is that Sergey Baka can space the floor. Because Serge can shoot, getting the big out of the paint while still having an available good screener on the court could make their offense a good bit easier. Someone who you can run pick and pops with, hit mid-range shots, hit three-pointers, all of that, keeping the defenders out of the paint to some extent, creating more open looks for the bigs that just don't want to step out of the paint, should definitely make offense a little bit easier, and they kind of need that kind of thing with their playmaking being as lacking as it is. Now, all of that is assuming that Ibaka is not washed after being injured and playing the 2 worst defensive seasons of his career in the past 2 seasons. So if he's not that, then yeah, I think that's going to be a big factor. Also, defensively, I think this team is going to be fine. I don't think I really need to get into that. Yes, Kawhi Leonard is a great defender, but he coasts so much in the regular season that I'd honestly say he's just like a good defender in the regular season, and he turns it up in the playoffs. But he is not going to be such a huge loss, at least regular season wise, to their defense. I think they will be able to, for the most part, maintain that. At the very least, keep their head above water, for sure. So with that said, how good will the Clippers be next year, specifically in terms of seeding? Well, it'd be easiest to say the teams that I think are better, and those would be the Lakers, Nuggets, Jazz, Suns, and Warriors. And then I guess I could probably say the Blazers, Mavs, and Clippers are going to be in a similar tier. So I suppose anywhere from the 6th to 8th seed in the West is where I would slot the Clippers in. I could see them in a battle with those other 2 teams for seeding. And in terms of how this team will fare in the playoffs, if Kawhi comes back towards the end of the regular season and starts to semi get implemented in the offense, I think the chemistry just won't really be there fully. And it would probably go similar to how it did with the Lakers last year, where it is just the chemistry's not there. Obviously, injury was also a factor in that, but chemistry was a huge reason as well that things just kind of didn't work. And without Kawhi, well, while I'm sure this team could scare a top team in the conference and potentially make it a series, I really don't think they have much shot against any of the top 5 teams in the conference. And yeah, that's about it. That's my thoughts on what the Clippers are going to look like next year. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more My NBA content like this. This is not My NBA content. This is NBA content. Wrong channel. NBA content by